Most of you would have heard of the Dnepropetrovsk maniacs, 2 Ukrainian teenagers who went on a 2-week killing spree in 2007. By the time they were captured, the boys had killed at least 21 people and seriously injured many more. Their weapon of choice was a yellow-handled hammer. Their crimes were heinous enough, but made infinitely worse by the fact that they filmed themselves carrying them out. A video of one of their murders was uploaded to all of the gore sites and quickly went viral. It was dubbed 3 Guys, 1 Hammer. The victim, Sergei Yatsenko, was a young grandfather at the time. Sergei went on to devote himself to his family. He had a wife, Lyudmila, who adored him, and 2 sons who grew up to be fine young men and who married young women whom Sergei came to love as if they were his own daughters. Sergei worked hard to give his family everything they needed. He was a wonderful cook, a loving father, always cheerful and met all of life's challenges with good humour. When a grandson came along, Sergei could not be happier. He took it upon himself to teach his daughter-in-law how to swaddle and bathe the baby, help which she indulged in the spirit in which it was offered. Sergei could not get enough of caring for and playing with his grandson and taking him for long walks. Sergei's life had been dealt a second blow when he developed a cancerous tumour in his throat that needed emergency surgery. It was another life and death operation for Sergei, which he faced with strength and dignity. As Lyudmila said, quote, "When the tumour was discovered, he did not complain, he did not whine, he took everything like a man." They were both overjoyed when the operation was successful, but he was left unable to speak in anything more than a whisper of a few words at a time. He lost his job, but, Lyudmila said, his family heard him, and that was what mattered. People often spoke of Sergei's kindness and gentle nature, but he was also a proud man, and by this time he was looking after his invalid mother, as well as his wife and the 4 dogs that he had given a home to. He felt he could not just sit at home and feel sorry for himself, so he accepted any odd job that people would give to him. He was happy to take on building tasks, fixing cars, garbage collection, driving or making deliveries on his Dnepr, a small Ukrainian-made off-road motorbike. According to Lyudmila, he even wove baskets and fashioned household goods out of macrame. His voice was slowly being restored and he could speak whole sentences, though still in a whisper. On the afternoon of the 12th of July 2007, 48-year-old Sergei called Lyudmila to let her know that he was going to get some fuel for his motorbike, and then he would go to see his grandson, just as he did every chance he could get. He set off along the lonely wooded shortcut to the highway. At some point, Sergei apparently swapped the motorbike for a push bike. Perhaps he ran out of fuel before he could get to his destination and left the motorbike at the side of the road. What happened here is unclear. What we do know is that along that quiet stretch of road, Igor and Victor waited for somebody. Anybody, provided they were weaker than the duo, to come along. Once Victor had identified the target, Igor stood nonchalantly in the middle of the road so that the bike would have to swerve around him. Victor realised that the camera sitting on top of the car would not do the trick, so he grabbed hold of it so that he could capture all of the action on film. As Sergei rode past on his mission to see his grandchild, Igor swung around, hammer still in the plastic bag, and knocked him off of his bike. Giggling like children, the 2 raced to the groaning man on the ground. Igor hit him again and urged Victor to make sure everything was caught on camera. Still laughing, they dragged the innocent man from the road and into the woods. Igor hit him with a hammer in the face again, but Sergei seemed to still be trying to speak, even though the cancer had already taken that facility from him. Igor stopped a moment and urged Victor to listen to the sounds coming from Sergei and to train the camera in a close-up on his face. After listening to the gurgling for a full minute, they returned to taunting Sergei's efforts to speak as they carried out their attack. Igor with the hammer and Victor with the screwdriver. Victor stabbed the screwdriver into Sergei's eyes until he could see brain matter, then drove it over and over into the man's stomach. As Sergei continued to try and breathe, his face no longer there, Igor and Victor marvelled that he managed to stay alive. For 8 long minutes in that lonely wood, Sergei Yatsenko endured unimaginable suffering at the hands of 2 psychopaths, which they gleefully caught on camera, giggling with excitement the entire time. They broke his arms, hit him over and over in the face with a hammer, and attempted to eviscerate him in their frenzied attack. Finally, satisfied that he was dead, Igor gave him one last taunt. Quote, "What a fucking day for you, huh?" he said. Igor took his time wiping the hammer clean and putting it in the trunk, and then carefully washed his face and hair, asking his friend to check for spots where he'd missed the blood. Running his fingers through his wet hair, Igor seemed invigorated by the atrocities he had just carried out, crying, quote, "This time was awesome, yeah?" Victor responded, quote, "I don't understand how he kept alive. I had the screwdriver like this as I stabbed him. I could feel his brain." Victor was keen to flee the scene of the crime, but Igor insisted the pair should go back and immortalise the memory with a selfie. Once he finished washing, he demanded, quote, "Alright, let's take a picture," and they returned to where the bloodied remains of a proud, brave family man lay to carry out the final indignity of photographing themselves performing the salute above his corpse. That evening, when Sergei had not returned home and his phone was not answering, Lyudmila took first to the telephone and then to the streets to look for him. She called her daughter-in-law and found out he had never made it there. She asked everyone the couple knew whether they had seen Sergei. She knew something wasn't right, because he would always let her know where he was and if he was going to be late. Lyudmila was concerned that her gentle husband had had an accident or fallen ill, as he was inclined to take too much on and overexert himself. She was frustrated and upset that Ukrainian regulations meant she could not file a missing persons report until he had been absent for 72 hours, even though she knew he had not simply gone off without telling her. Lyudmila did not sleep that night, and the next day she posted flyers and photographs of her husband all around the town and stopped everyone she came across, asking if they had seen him. Nobody had, but Lyudmila did not give up, scouring the streets and enlisting help from family and friends until she fell asleep exhausted. Both perpetrators were arrested on the 23rd of July 2007 when Igor attempted to sell a mobile phone stolen from a victim in a local pawn shop. Law enforcement agents tracked the phone's location once the shop's owner turned it on to check its functionality. Victor and Igor were arrested near the cash registers of the shop. Another suspect, Alexander Hansa, was arrested at home. The three suspects had attended school together and by age 14 found some common ground. Quote, "Me and Igor were both afraid of heights and we were afraid we'd be beaten up by bullies," Victor stated during questioning. Igor sought advice on getting rid of their fears, which led the boys to stand on a balcony of their 14th floor apartment for hours, hanging over the railing. This reportedly had a positive effect on their fear of heights. Hansa was reportedly the most squeamish of the three. He had a blood phobia and even refused to bathe his kitten, afraid he might scald it. Igor suggested tackling the fears by torturing stray dogs. The boys captured dogs in a wooded area near their house, hanged them from trees, disemboweled them, and took pictures next to the corpses. Prosecution evidence included many of these photos taken by the suspects while underage. Some photos show the boys drawing swastikas and other symbols with animal blood and giving the salute. In one photo, Igor poses sporting a toothbrush moustache, similar to Adolf Hitler's moustache. Igor was born on the 20th of April, the same day as Hitler, and referred to this fact. A long video showing the three torturing a white kitten was shown in court. It takes place in their garage. The suspects fashioned a cross from wooden boards and nailed the kitten to it, then shot at it with pistols, placing foam and glue in its mouth to muffle the kitten's noises. When the boys were 17, Igor beat up a local boy and stole his bike, which he then sold to Victor. Both were arrested but did not go to jail due to their age. After high school, Hansa drifted between odd jobs, which included a pastry chef and a construction worker. At his arrest, he had been unemployed for some time. Victor went to a metallurgy institute part-time and worked as a security guard. Igor remained officially unemployed, but made a living driving his green Daewoo Lanos as an unlicensed taxi. The car was reportedly a birthday gift from his parents. Some months before the murder spree, Igor, with the help of Victor and Hansa, began picking up passengers and robbing them. A green Daewoo with a taxicab's checkerboard marking was often described as the vehicle used in the murders. According to the suspects' confessions, some murder victims were picked up as passengers in the cab. Hansa reportedly participated in one where two men were robbed and then declined to take part in any further attacks. The 3 men were charged with involvement in 29 separate incidents, including 21 murders and 8 more attacks where victims survived. Igor was charged with 27 of the cases, including 21 counts of capital murder, 8 armed robberies, and 1 count of animal cruelty. Victor was charged with 25 instances, including 18 murders, 5 robberies, and 1 count of animal cruelty. Hansa was charged with 2 counts of armed robbery stemming from a 1st of March 2007 incident in Kamyansk. All 3 confessed quickly, although Igor later withdrew his confession. Their trial began in June 2008. Igor pleaded not guilty, while the other 2 suspects pleaded guilty to all charges. Viktor Shevguz, Igor's original defense lawyer, left the case after reportedly being disappointed that his client's plea of insanity was not accepted. Lawyers for the victims' families argued that the level of care taken by the killers during their crime spree meant that they were fully aware of their actions. On the 11th of February 2009, the court in Dnipro found Viktor and Igor guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced both to life imprisonment. Igor was found guilty of 21 murders, Viktor of 18. They also received 15-year sentences after being found guilty on the robbery charges. Hansa, who was not involved in the killings, was found guilty of robbery and sentenced to 9 years in prison. The judge stated in the verdict that the main motive for the crimes had been a desire for, quote, morbid self-affirmation. Referring to the accused, the court noted, quote, the poverty of their emotional world and their absence of interest in people and moral standards. In April 2019, it was reported that Alexander Hansa had been released from prison after serving 9 years and is married with 2 children. What are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments section. If you find this video interesting, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you for watching.